So I'm Payal Kapadia, and I hear all the dictums that have been issued so far about evacuation and all, which have nothing to do with how horrid this session is going to become, though I'm not going to guarantee that it won't be horrid at all. But basically, they have to do with President Kalam coming in after me. I was here last year. It was a fantastic festival, and it's even better this year. I was here because as a debut novelist, I won an award, the Crossword Award, for Wisha Was a Writer, which is about a 10-year-old girl called Wisha who wishes she were a writer and goes on this creative adventure. And basically, I'm horridly happy to be back again because I'm reading from my new book, which is called Horrid High. And part 1 released in September last year, and part 2 will come out this year. And I'm horridly busy because I'm halfway through part 2. And before I begin, I'm going to run my horrid little book trailer. It's great fun to watch, and I think it does a better job telling you about the book than I will. Hold on a moment. There's already horrid business afoot, but give it a moment and I think the trailer will work. Okay, till they play it, I'm going to tell you that Horrid High is basically my attempt at trying to write a book for kids that is impossibly horrid and yet incredibly funny at the same time. And I wanted to see if I could push horridness to its logical extreme and whether kids had the sort of humor where they could appreciate me poking a lot of fun even at them. And you know what? I found that kids do have a tremendous sense of humor, and wherever I've read the book, they thoroughly enjoy it. So it is basically set in the world's most horrid school, and it's about a bunch of 5 children who land up at the school and their adventures. Interestingly, all the kids are great fun in the book. The adults, I'm sorry to say, are complete write-offs, whether it's the parents or the teachers. And basically, it's a school where you can dump your kids and forget about them. Go ahead. If you were looking at some of those crazy illustrations in the book does end. It has a messy ending, and there's a mass evacuation, sort of the kind that you were being told about. And let's hope we don't have to have any of those today. Well, what do you do if you are 11 years old and you're stuck at the world's most horrid school? Is there anybody in this audience who is 10 or 11? And who can empathize with what I'm saying? Yes, great. So what do you do if you're stuck at the world's most horrid school and horror of horrors? Your parents are complete write-offs and do not want you back. Not a great situation to be in. But I'm going to, at present, just for the sake of efficiency. Yes, you already have a question. Tell me. You would try to escape, but you know, for some reason, the 5 extraordinary kids at this school decide not to escape and they stay put. So you'll have to read the book and find out why they decide to stick it out at the world's most horrid school. Makes you wonder, right? It does. Okay, so I have 4 little cards that I'm going to give out to roughly divide you into 4 groups. So I want, the bunch of people sitting here to be my dimwits. I'm very sorry to give you these complimentary names, but these are the dimwits right here. Would you proudly hold the dimwit card? Thank you so much. And I want someone here to hold the scumbag card, and I want you guys to be my scumbags. And I want that quadrant at the back to be the low lives. And so as not to leave you out, you guys are the nincompoops. And those are not my names for you, but you see the horrid principal of Horrid High, perforce, has to be the world's most horrid principal. And he absolutely hates children, which makes you wonder why he's teaching at a children's school, right? So any case, he thinks that children only fall very strictly into 4 categories. They're either dimwits or lowlifes, scumbags or nincompoops. So you agree with him, right? You don't. You don't. Okay. But in any case, I'm going to throw questions out to the audience when I start reading. And there are some fun goodies going out. For one, there is this, which I absolutely love, which is a standing bookmark we designed. So it has these little gates. They fold over, and then the bookmark stands on your desk. And I have 3 on mine. And we have these activity kits, which are like horrid, horrid brain teasers for anyone to be put into a nicely horrid mood. And we also have these little samplers of my book. This is the first 2 chapters, and it hopefully will intrigue you to read more. And we also have 5 free signed copies of my book to give away. So I'm going to keep amping up the value as I throw the questions out. But to begin with, I think you should meet the unfortunate hero, 11-year-old Ferg Gotten, and his rather unlikable parents, the Gottens. If 11-year-old Ferg Gotten had been bought from a store, his parents would have returned him and demanded a refund. But everyone knows you can't buy children any more than you can send them back where they came from. Once you have children, you're stuck with them. What a terrible thought. And Mr. and Mrs. Gotten shuddered at the thought of being stuck with their son forever. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Gotten hated children. Hating children isn't a very good thing, but the Gottens weren't very good people. There's nothing that awful about having parents who don't love you, said Mrs. Gotten, on one of those rare occasions when it occurred to her to speak to Ferg. I grew up with a mom and a dad who couldn't have cared a hoot, and I turned out fine. Did Mrs. Gotten turn out fine? Not really. Raising a child is too time-consuming, Mrs. Gotten told her husband, forgetting as always that Ferg was in the room. I have other things to do besides being his mother. Mr. Gotten grunted in agreement. Hire someone else to be his mother, darling, he said, and went back to reading the sports section of the newspaper, even though he'd never played a single sport in his life. Enough is enough, said Mrs. Gotten one day. Isn't there one school in this world where we can just dump the child and forget about him? So Mrs. Gotten switched off the telly and swore she would not put it back on, what a sacrifice, till she had found just such a school. She got on the internet and started looking. It was not an easy job, you see, because a school where you can dump your kids and forget about them has to be a pretty horrid school, right? And although there are many horrid schools in this big bad world, there aren't too many that will own up to being horrid. Yes. So the first question, and where are my dimwits? Where are my proud dimwits? Do you guys want to prove that you're not dim-witted? Please tell me, what do you think? Why have I named the hero Ferg Gotten? I'm going to put that up there. And there is a bookmark going out for anybody who can get this. You want to try? He's been forgotten by his parents. Thank you so much. And that's why his name is Ferg Gotten. And there's plenty of wordplay in my book, so I'm going to keep throwing some at you. Thank you. Yeah. Can you give her a bookmark? Superb. And so Ferg Gotten lands up at the world's most horrid school, but there has to be a silver lining to every cloud, right? Or you hope so. So when he gets to the world's most horrid school, he makes friends with 4 extraordinary kids. Not ordinary kids, mind you, extraordinary kids with extraordinary skills. And then they form this wonderful gang at Horrid High. And now all the kids' names are some sort of hint about what those kids are all about. So then Ferg meets Phil Fingersmith. Any of the nincompoops feel brave enough to tell me, perhaps, what could Phil Fingersmith's special skill be, based on his name? Fingersmith. He's obviously someone who's very clever with his fingers. You want to try? Go ahead.
He's pretty agile with his fingers. He can do a bit of tricks with his fingers. That's why his name is Fingersmith.
He can do some tricks, but you need to tell me what kind of tricks. You want to guess. If you were stuck at the world's most horrid school, what would it be quite useful to have your fingers be able to do? Yes, tell me. You want to try?
He's very clumsy.
No, we don't want him to be clumsy. We, in fact, want him to be agile, but there is something he does with his fingers. You want to try again? Go ahead. Someone else?
Open locks with his
Thank you so much. Yes, so he is a lock picker and he can pick locks. Isn't that a useful skill when you're locked up at the world's most horrid school? And there, that doesn't answer your question. If you're stuck at the world's most horrid school and you can pick open locks, why would you still decide to stay there? So anyway, there's a third extraordinary kid in the gang. Has somebody given a bookmark out at the back to the person who guessed? Thank you. And the next one goes out to the scumbags. Where are my scumbags? Wonderful. So there is a third person who joins this extraordinary gang, and her name is Fermina Filch. But this one is really hard and stumps all my readers. So if you can guess why her name is Fermina Filch, you will get a copy of my book. Does anyone want to try? Why would her name be Fermina Filch? She's also agile with her fingers. What do you think her extraordinary skill could be? Anyone from the back wants to try? If yes, you want to try? Shout it out. She can elongate her fingers? Oh, okay, I'll think of that for book 2. But no, that's not it. There's some hands waving there. You want to give it a shot. Go ahead.
Filch means stealing, so she can
Yes,
steal.
thank you so much. You will definitely be getting a copy of my book. Congratulations. Yes, to filch actually means to steal. Small amounts of casual stealing, not large bank robberies, account for the word filching. So Fermina Filch is a pickpocket. Again, a super skill to have when you're stuck at the world's most horrid school. And then there is a fourth character, one more girl. And her name is Mesmer Martin. Can anybody perhaps guess what Mesmer might be good at? Anybody here who didn't have a shot at it? What does mesmerizing mean? Hypnotizing. Thank you so much. He gets an activity kit. So, yes, so Mesmer Martin is a master hypnotist. Again, a great skill to have when you're stuck with the world's most horrid teachers at the world's most horrid school. And the last one in our gang, and this is such an easy giveaway, her name is Imitate. Can anyone guess what Miss Imitate would be good at doing? Yes, somebody standing there, tell me. She could imitate people, but a person who's very good at imitating people is also called and the word starts with an M. If you can give me that. Mimic. Okay, that's it. That's great. Can somebody please give him a free sampler of the book to check it out? So yes, she's a mimic. So now you have 5 amazing kids. You have Forgotten, who's been forgotten by his parents. And the question I often get asked is, if he's the forgotten boy, what's so special about him? What's so extraordinary about Forgotten? And the thing is, he's easily forgotten by everyone around him. He's a very unremarkable boy. But he doesn't forget anything. He notices everything around him, and he has great observation skills. He also observes that his parents aren't very likable people. And then we have master hypnotist Mesmer Martin. We have the pickpocket Fermina Filch. We have the lockpicker Phil Fingersmith. And we have the mimic, Imitate. So our gang of 5 is complete. But they wouldn't be at the world's most horrid school if there weren't a whole bunch of rather horrid teachers. Now the fun begins. So I am going to introduce you to the rather horrid English teacher, Miss Verbose. And if anybody could hazard a guess as to why her name is Miss Verbose. Anybody knew? Loud? No. What would verbose actually mean? It's an adjective to describe what? She uses very difficult words, or even just uses a lot of words. Yes, you're right. So please pass out a bookmark to her. And so Miss Verbose is our English teacher who is in love with words. She's not very lovable though, of course. So I'm going to read from this section. It's one of my favorite sections. Miss Verbose scraped the blackboard with a long purple fingernail. This is today's list of words, children. Make your sentences, she said. She turned her back to the children and started writing. The words were rather strange. Gumption, serendipity, salacious, doppelganger, gossamer, laconic, mustelid, occlude. If some of you are feeling dizzy, I am too. No one dared ask her what the words meant. Miss Verbose didn't know what the words meant either. What she liked about big words was the sound of them and how clever they made her feel. What's your sentence? She asked Ferg. I found a gumption in my soup, he suggested. Could we put the word gumption up? There. So that's the word gumption. Anybody from any of the groups wants to hazard a guess what the word gumption means and whether you could find gumption in your soup. Yeah, go ahead. It's not edible. What is gumption? Sorry? Thank you so much. It is. Gumption is cheek. Please hand out one bookmark there. Gumption is cheek. It's somebody who has pluck, somebody who's resourceful. It's a quality in a person's nature. So I might say, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I admire your gumption. It means I admire your pluck. So there's no way that your pluck, your cheek, your resourcefulness could land up in a bowl of soup, right? So when Ferg says, I found a gumption in my soup, does that make any sense? No, but Miss Verbose thinks it makes perfect sense. And she smiled a golden, dazzling smile. Wonderful, she said. The next word was gossamer. It isn't good to gossamer, said a girl, sounding doubtful even as she said it. She should be doubtful because that sentence makes no sense. Does anyone want to try and tell me what gossamer means? Somebody from the back, right there at the back standing. Yes. Sorry, delicate.
To gossip.
Thank you so much. No, did you say delicate? Yes, delicate. Gossamer is a sort of fabric like the wings of a dragonfly, really delicate and transparent and sheer. So it's used to describe a certain kind of sheer, delicate fabric. So does it make any sense to say it isn't good to gossamer? Definitely not. But Miss Verbose pronounced, well done. So that's Miss Verbose for you. And I'm going to let you meet one more awful teacher, Coach Callis. He's the PE coach. Swim, you sickening scab, Coach Callis yelled at a girl in a faded swim costume. On such a hot day, swimming should have been fun. But there was nothing enjoyable about jumping into a tank of what looked like spinach soup. Ah, my lucky day, a new boy, said Coach Callis, craning his neck and staring at Ferg like a bird at a worm. But Ferg's feet were glued to the ground. Yes, I know, I'm going to ask you. He couldn't move. Why aren't you jumping in, you giant booger? Coach Callis snarled. Didn't you hear the whistle? I can't swim, cried Ferg. The coach's voice grew oily. You can't swim? There's nothing like not being able to swim, you bird dropping. God, I just love these words. That's just an excuse lazy children make when they don't want to swim. Now Coach Callis gave Ferg a hard shove. Nothing like a good swim to send the blood rushing to the limbs, said the coach, running his fingers through his long, greasy ponytail. There were no towels to dry the children off. There are no towels at Horrid High. So they were made to do 50 jumping jacks in the sun, their wet clothes sticking to them. Now stand there and drip dry before you go back in, you pus-filled pimples. That's wonderful, Coach Callis. And I think there's already somebody dying to tell me what Callis means. Yes.
Heartless?
Yes, heartless, completely. Everyone at Horrid High is just completely heartless. Isn't that fun? So, can you give out an activity kit to him as well? Thank you. And there's the horrid principal of Horrid High. I mentioned him earlier. And there is only one thing horrid principal perverse loves. It's not children, I'm afraid. It's the rules. He loves rules. He loves rules so much, he has a big black book of 300 rules. And if you land up at Horrid High, the first thing you get is a copy of the rule book. And he expects you to memorize all the rules. Because he could meet you in the hallway and ask you, what is rule number 277? And if you do not know it, then you get dragged off to the Tower of Torture. What happens in the Tower of Torture? Read the book and find out. So, could anyone from all 4 groups, just one volunteer, imagine that you are the principal of the world's most horrid school and come up with a rule that is completely horrid, but also completely senseless? Because if it's not senseless, it doesn't belong at Horrid High. Anybody wants to try from this group? You want to try? Still thinking? You want to try?
Stubborn.
Sorry?
Stubborn.
Come up with a rule. I'm going to give you an example. So the principal's own rules. Rule number 1, children are not allowed to laugh. Rule number 11, children are not allowed to sleep on beds because lying down makes them lazy. And rule number 16, children must take dry showers because wet showers waste water. And if anybody figures out what a dry shower is, do let me know. I haven't figured that one out yet. So anybody wants to come up with a completely senseless, absurd, and very, very horrid rule? Yes? Walking on the corridors? So he says that you're not allowed to walk in the corridors and put your feet on the floor. You have to kind of float along. Sounds good. Decently horrid, you think? Or we could get more horrid? Is anybody willing to get more horrid? Yes? But that's a good rule, right? If you can't wear dirty slippers in the hallways, that's a really good rule. That's true, but can you come up with something that would make life very horrid at Horrid High? I just want to make life more horrid, if that's possible. Yes? You cannot brush your teeth. Oh, that sounds nice and suitably icky. Do you think maybe he deserves a bookmark? Cannot brush your teeth. Sounds good to me, yes. Children are not allowed to talk to each other. That's good. That's very good. He deserves one too. Is there anybody else with a senseless? Come on, give me something a little more senseless. Oh, that's fantastic. Give him a sample of the book. I think he's in the mood to read. He says you can breathe anything but oxygen. Sounds good, yes. Oh, that's already a rule, by the way, at Horrid High. You cannot listen to music, but I'll give you that. You had no way of knowing. So give her a sample of the book too. And yes, can't have friends, only enemies. I completely agree. So one activity kit out there as well. Now they're all coming out of the woodwork. Some more horrid rules from the back. Nobody in the back who's in the mood to be horrid? That little boy, yes? Yes, yes, yes. Can you shout it out?
He's saying wearing the same clothes for the month.
Yes, you do actually. At Horrid High, you're only allowed to have one extra pair of clothes. You're definitely made to be principal of Horrid High. That's good work. Anybody here? Yes, tell me. Eat your food without opening your mouth. That's nice and evil. I'll use that in book 2. Thank you. So bookmark there as well. Yes, tell me. Oh my God, you cannot eat anything at Horrid High but fried hair. Actually, you're going to be the perfect candidate for my next question, but give her a sample of the book too. You have one as well, the boy in the green, yes? Not allowed to do homework. I think that's the sign of a good school, right? How many people agree? I wish I had a school where I wasn't supposed to do homework. You're supposed to do lots of homework. That would be horrid, right? I know a lot of schools who are horrid that way, right? Yeah. You have to read aloud without making a noise, without making a sound. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so can someone come here and give this boy something as well? And I think you've already got a bookmark, so then maybe he doesn't need another. Yes? Can you shout it out? You have to be horrid and shout loudly. The teacher is always, in fact, may be wrong and doesn't know what the answer is. So yes, you can't ask the teacher anything. You might want to give her a sample of the book. Yeah? Oh my God. Okay, you are going to wait for my next question on that, and I'm going to ask you first. You can't obey the teachers. You can't obey the teachers, but that's a perfectly happy school if you ask me, right? In what way is that horrid? Are there any teachers you are sending hateful looks my way? Are there any teachers in the audience? Oh, okay, I'm going to safely distance myself. Yes. But that's quite a lovely school, no? If you can declare it a holiday. I would say all schools should operate for only 2 days a week. How about that? Yes. Sorry? Use the washroom only once a month. Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah. You have to come to school on holidays. That sounds really horrid. And if you're at a boarding school where there's no concept of weekends, all boarders, oh my God, I hope you get your weekends off. You do, right? Or you're not going to say anything right now. You come and talk to me later. And did you get anything? The one who talked about the weekends? Yeah, okay. Would somebody give her a bookmark there? Great. Yeah. Try to walk with the laces of both shoes tied together. Sounds like something Coach Callis would do. You know what Coach Callis's favorite workout for the kids is? Running on your knees. How many of you have tried that? Yes. Give her also something. Oh, there are no chocolates allowed at Horrid High. He says you can eat a chocolate only once a year. But this is even worse than that. Chocolate is completely forbidden, and it actually has a very important part in the plot of the book. Yes. You have to listen to all the boring stuff the teacher says. Sounds like your standard school, doesn't it? I'm really going to create some distance between you and me now. Yeah, tell me. School with no games period? Makes sense, though at this school it would be a good thing because when you have games, you have them with Coach Callis. And that is no fun in games, let me tell you. Yeah. Wow, that's a great one. He says the only cake you're allowed to cut on your birthday is a dung cake. Fun, fun, fun. Huh. 2 options. No examinations and no principal. Do you agree that that's horrid? No. Yes, tell me. Sorry? Eat with your feet? That might be fun because I'm about to tell you what you'll be subjected to if you were a student at Horrid High. Because the last thing left at Horrid High that I need to tell you about is the chef. And her name is Chef Greta Gross. Suitable name for a suitable chef who believes in taking revenge on humanity by cooking really bad food. I know a lot of people who are like that. Do you? Food is a form of revenge sometimes if you cook badly. So Chef Greta Gross's favorite dishes, one of them is crow pie a la mode. And if you know anything about pie a la mode, it's usually a beautiful dish served with a dollop of vanilla ice cream. But, you know, Greta Gross's version, crow pie a la mode, has a black crow feather sticking out of the dollop of vanilla ice cream. Sounds delicious? Not really. One of her other favorite dishes, rat's tail ratatouille. Almost there, but not quite, right? I just love the way she Frenchifies some of her worst dishes. So perhaps anybody from all 4 teams can come out and develop a perfectly gross item for today's menu, but make it sound like it could belong on the menu of a fancy French restaurant. You want to try? Centipede legs delicately braised with worm blood, for example. And simmered with coriander. Make it sound delicious. Make me want to eat it, even though it's disgusting. Yes.
Cockroach intestines smeared with lettuce blood. And,
Lettuce blood? How are you going to get
sorry,
that? Revise. Beetle blood.
with beetle blood dipped in cow dung sauce and smeared.
That's it. You don't want to smear it with anything. We're done, right? There's way too many ingredients in there. But it's just about made it to MasterChef. He should get something. It's funny how when I ask this question, everyone usually hits upon something to do with cockroaches. I don't know why. And cow dung. Those are always the top 2 gross ingredients. Lizard tail would have been the next. I agree. Anybody out there? Yes. Booga Booya Bays. Oh, that is one of the most lovely ones I've heard so far. Thank you. I'm going to put it up on my website. It's lovely. Thanks. Please give her something. Anybody? Someone right at the back whose face I can't see. Only the hand waving right at the back here. Octopus what? Eggs. With? Legs.
Octopus legs with worm's blood.
Okay, octopus legs with worm's blood. Now we're getting warmed up. I hope some of this is on the menu at JLF today. Yes, at the back. Sorry? Can somebody give him a mic so he can have a better time? Yeah.
A bear fur croissant.
Oh, what croissant?
Bear fur.
A bear fur croissant. Sounds lovely and hairy, doesn't it? Thank you. The boy at the back, yeah. Mosquito soup, and we have plenty of those going around, don't we? That's a good one. Yeah, tell me.
Eyeball soup.
Who's got eyeball soup? Who's the one? That's great too. Sorry? A mocktail. I'm going to leave you to tell me that one yourself. Please come here. Her mocktail has way too many ingredients. Come, come, come. We have a bartender in the making. Can you give her a mic so she can shout it out? She's decided enough of the icky food. Let's just come up with a mocktail now.
We
Yeah.
can make a mocktail, octopus blood, look like white wine, and cockroach blood that like chocolate on it. So I think a good mocktail, maybe.
Lots of blood, basically. Anybody, any takers? Yeah, tell me. Warm noodles with crispy beetle Manchurian. Okay, I'm going to give one last one there. Yeah. What? Dog paws with cat ears. It's getting meaner and meaner by the minute. So after that principal candidate, we have one more here who can be candidate for principal. Yes, tell me. Monster meatballs dipped in mozzarella cheese. It's sort of delicious. Yeah. Fried lizard with extra cheese. Mind the extra cheese, of course. That's the selling point. Yeah. Sorry, what has the saliva of swine? Do tell. Roasted earthworms with saliva of swine. I hope you're giving out stuff to all these imaginative answers. Yes. Go ahead. Chocolate what? Chocolate dung? Fondue? Okay, that's a good one. Anyone else?
Here, blood lamb roulade.
Blood lamb roulade. You borders are getting some really fancy food, huh? Okay. So, yes, yeah. What is?
It's creme air waxé. From creme brulee. Yeah.
Oh my God. So, you know, creme brulee does figure in book 2 actually. So how prophetic was that? But yes, do give us something. Is there anybody else who wants to still give this a shot? Yeah. I only heard the asparagus. Maybe that's the only part I wanted to eat. Tell me the whole of it. Cockroach, pounded asparagus with fresh? Oh God. Okay. Give him something. I can't even visualize that anymore. Yes, tell me. Lizard liver with cow dung. And so we get cow dung again. There's lots of cow dung going around. Enough for everybody. Don't worry. Yes. Sorry?
With cow dung curry.
Anteater's hair. Do anteaters have hair? I don't know. Do they? With cow dung curry. Okay, I believe you. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Ants with Rajnigandha on it. Okay, that sounds suitably gross. That's the winning one. And curry, yeah. What mixed what? Okay, you can stop it. It's gross enough, I believe you. Yeah. Centipede something is coming.
Salad along with butterfly wings and dragonfly blood.
I agree. At least we should have some fresh insects in the mix now. So centipede salad sounds good. Yes.
An ice cream with earthworm cream and octopus eye as a cherry.
Anyway, Chef Greta Gross's favorite ice cream is salty spinach ice cream. And if you haven't tried it, you might as well give it a shot. But so the kids who are stuck at the world's most horrid school have a very nasty English teacher, a completely heartless sports teacher, a chef who makes inedible food, and a maths teacher, a mental maths teacher called Master Minus, who loves only 2 things, and neither of those are children, mind you. One of the things he loves is counting everything in sight. And if you watch the book trailer, he has the kids climbing up a tree and they have to count all the buds and the flowers on the tree, which is pretty nasty. And the second thing Master Minus really loves, his own hair. And so this is a point in the book where the kids decide to turn the tables on their horrid teachers and teach them some suitably horrid lessons. About time, right? So they slip him a potion, and that potion makes his hair fall off. So Master Minus turns up for the maths class, but he is slowly going bald and doesn't even know it. So this is that part. What shall we count today? Master Minus asked the class. Ferg rose slowly. He would have to speak carefully because a loud laugh was bubbling up inside of him and he could not afford to let it out. Ferg took a deep breath and steeled himself to keep a straight face. I suggest that we count the clumps of hair on your shirt, sir, and do a separate count of the strands too. Clumps? Strands? What clumps? What strands? Master Minus stared at Ferg in amazement, but now the whole class was pointing at their teacher and laughing. Master Minus looked down at his shirt, and his mouth opened in a giant O, as though he were about to say oblique, or octagon, or odds and evens. But there was nothing mathematical about the O his mouth made. It was an expression of pure horror. His shirt was a carpet of human hair. There was hair in the cuffs of his sleeves, hair snagged around the buttons of his shirt, even a thick bunch caught in the buckle of his belt. And then all of a sudden, a girl sitting in the far corner shot out of her chair and screamed, "Look at that! It's a giant insect on your collar, Master, and it moves!" Master Minus looked down at his collar. But it is rather hard to look down at your own collar. You want to try? It is pretty hard. And see anything too clearly. With trembling fingers, he felt for the insect. And when something large and furry came away in his hands, he jumped high up in the air with a terrible "ah!" and tossed it across the room. If it was a large and poisonous insect, he thought, it didn't matter which child it landed on, just as long as it landed far away from him. Master Minus did a little dance, a shivery, jittery dance. But now Ferg had climbed over the chairs and gone up to the insect. He bent down and looked at it. "It's not an insect," he said. "It's a clump of hair, a giant clump." "Nonsense," said Master Minus. But it was a giant clump, and the little hairs looked so familiar. And wouldn't they be? They were his. Half panting now, Master Minus touched the top of his head with trembling hands and found only smooth skin. Master Minus was as bald as a boiled egg. It was at this point that Fermina Filch did something most wicked. She leaned in close and said, "Should we count how many hairs you've dropped, Master Minus?" It was as though an electric jolt had been delivered to the maths teacher. Counting, of course. He had to count how many hairs he was losing. But no, he could not trust these demented children to count for him. He had to do it all himself. "Get away, you imbeciles, you half-brains," he shouted. "I'll do the counting." So it went all day. And after Master Minus had counted 2,332 hairs in the classroom, he went sobbing into the hallway and found that he had left quite a trail there too. And that is the sad and rather bald end of Master Minus. And what happens to the other teachers, you have to read the book to find out. I'm going to throw the floor open for a few questions if there are any, because I'm the one who's been asking all the questions. Anybody wants to throw horrid questions my way? Can't believe I'm asking for them. Yeah.
How did the idea for the book come to you?
How did the idea come to me? You know, I just wanted to write a book about a horrid school. And I was wondering whether there was a school where you could dump your children and forget about them. Nothing personal there, but I think a lot of parents wonder if there was such a place. And so I thought, how about I write a book in which all the grown-ups are perfect write-offs, except for one, because the book does have this amazing grandma. And she's my favorite character because I'm kind of fed up of grandmas who sit in rocking chairs and knit sweaters. And I wanted a jungle-saving grandma who can wear pink Bermudas and tromp around in jungles and save wild animals. And I thought that's what I want to be when I'm 70. So she's my favorite character. Apart from that, all the adults are completely horrid. Yes? Is there a mic we could give him so everyone could hear the question?
Hello.
Sorry? That's fine.
Ma'am, do you think the time has been changed? Because the time was there when the novels or the books were just written for the old age ones.
Yeah.
And now the novels are being centralized to the children or the youth of around 15 years of age.
Right.
So do you think there's a shift in time or there's a shift in thinking of the paradoxy?
You know, I think that there's always been books written for kids. I mean, but you know, I think when I was growing up, and I might sound so old when I say this, but when I was growing up, the regular staple of books that I read were Enid Blyton. There wasn't that much else, and maybe a little bit of Roald Dahl. But I think now there's just a great variety of books being made available to us. I think they were always there, just being made more available. And I think there's a lot more vibrant Indian writing for kids. and it's developing a much more contemporary, edgy voice. And I think kids don't want to read stories anymore that preach morality or tell them a lesson, though I think every book makes you walk away from it feeling a bit larger than you were before you started reading it. But I just think the overt, didacticism, that's kind of gone. And instead, people are writing books where you can just have a lot of fun while reading. And you know what's wrong with that? Yeah, yeah. I did a lot of research around my character, Granny Grit, because she was a globe-trotting granny, and she starts an environmental movement, and then she also comes to teach at the school. So when she comes to teach at this school, I wanted her to be the children's window to the outside world and bring in a lot of elements from cultures all over the world. So I did a lot of research at that time, and it was actually great fun. But apart from that, most of it just came from my own mad imagination. Yeah. Have I read Matilda? I love Matilda. And even she has parents who don't care two hoots for her, right? Sorry? Yes, so if you think of the wicked principal, lot like Principal Perverse, right? Except in female form. Yeah, I think so too. Actually, Roald Dahl is one of my favorite authors, and I mentioned him in my first book, Wish I Was a Writer, and I referenced him even in this book because I think I've always grown up loving the way in which he can use humor and deploy horridness and make kids just have a wonderful rollicking time while they read. Yeah.
Not looking to the sides at all. You're looking right in front of you.
Okay.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Which school did you go to, and is there any connection between what you're writing?
Is there an autobiographical element? How many enemies do you want me to make?
Which school did you go
I
to?
went to a school called Queen Mary's in Bombay. It was a lovely school, but it was very disciplined. And I think that I've had a childhood dislike for any kind of authority and discipline. So
That's where it comes
that
from.
explains, yeah, a lot of disregard for that. I was a bit of a rebellious spirit, but it was a lovely school. I'm completely to blame. Yeah, yeah. Oh, why did I choose only the English and the maths teachers? Well, I had to settle on a few teachers. You are the English teacher, and I'm sure she bears no resemblance to you whatsoever. But the next book has a science teacher, by the way, so it changes. I'm not only after the English teacher, but at school, my favorite teachers were English teachers, and I wanted to be a writer ever since I was 9. So my favorite memories from back school days are writing and reading. Yeah. What's with me in schools? Well, nothing, because this is the first time I've written about them. Wish I Was a Writer was just about a girl who wanted to write. But this time around, I wanted to, have a school story because this book has 15 characters. They all have a backstory that explains why they're horrid or why they're extraordinary. And I just love the idea of all these characters on a constant collision course with each other, and then the mass evacuation that follows at the end that I told you about. Yeah. A little bit. I think every author gets something from imagination, but also something from observing people around you. And I think people around us very often have strange and extremely entertaining quirks. But then if you take them to their logical extreme and you turn them into caricatures, then you have a lot of fun. So yeah, a little bit of it is taken from real life, for sure. Yeah. It's a pure fantasy. I wanted it to be an incredibly funny but horrid fantasy.
Or where did it come from? Like you were sleeping, you got a dream.
No,
yeah,
actually,
there
it's
is a
very strange. I went for a writer's workshop, and I was the only published author there. Everyone else who had turned up were people who were still trying to figure out how to write their first book. But I went there because I feel that writers' workshops create a great energy, and they stoke you to think of new ideas. And while I was there, they said, can you write a little, for a little writing exercise, they asked us to develop a completely exaggerated character. And I developed a character called Volumina, who turns out to be the school bully at Horrid High. And after I developed her, I said, well, a school bully of this sort deserves to belong at a horrid school. And then from there, I moved on to the world's most horrid school. And then I found 14 other characters who could populate the school, and then you have the book. So it just starts with sometimes it's a small germ of an idea. Yes, the little boy there, yeah.
How did you get the idea of naming your characters like this?
There's a little bit of a technique called alliteration. I think most of you know what alliteration is. And I think I just love the sounds that are made when you say Fermina Filch, or you say Horrid High, or you say Phil Fingersmith, or Vera Verbose. It sounds nice and rhythmic. And I wanted to play on words. I did that a lot in my first book as well. And I think just the power of words and the way you can spin them around always amazes me and captivates me. So I didn't want to come up with characters who you could pin down as being, British or American or Indian. I wanted them to stand for ideas rather than for even just actual people. Yes, at the back. The mic. Can somebody hand the mic? In my black and white bag, I have 3 softballs. No, somebody at the back wants the mic. Somebody way at the back needs a mic, right? Yeah. Anybody up in front? Just a moment, let them speak and then I'll ask.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So when I was here, I thought that you've been influenced a lot. You said you've read Matilda.
Yes.
And probably you've read Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate
The
events.
first book, and I loved it. I love Uncle Olaf.
And we all know Addams Family. So do you think these were your inspirations or like starting
Definitely,
points?
they are some of my favorite authors. I have others like Eva Ibbotson, if anybody has read any of her books. She was a fantastic author, and her books are, again, completely outlandish. The characters are wacky, and I love a madcap story. So, yeah, I'm definitely influenced by some of these people.
It's great to see goth literature growing in India now.
Thank you so much. Anyone, I think this boy here.
Ma'am, as it is, you have told that the students of the Horrid High were not allowed to go out of the school. Then how did they met the granny?
Oh, good question. Because Granny Grit comes to school pretending to be a really horrid teacher and then turns out to be someone who helps the kids to figure out how to fight back.
But ma'am, which teacher she was?
She turns out to be the replacement English teacher. You're asking me for too much, but yeah, she turns out to replace Miss Verbose. Miss Verbose goes to make misery somewhere else. And then Granny Grit turns up. Anyone else? Yeah. Well, the final message is that the English language is a fantastic language to write in, and, well, that is the language I'm most comfortable in, and to read. And I wanted to tell a story that would be incredibly fun to read, and yet would be a sort of engagement with wordplay and with characters that are dense and layered. So the final
with
message
characters
is...
and story as horrid as you have mentioned just now, have you enjoyed writing it? And do you feel that after writing and after reading it, people would feel liberated and there would be a whole world of imagination open to them?
I hope so. I don't know if I start out with any grandiose plans, but I do hope that when people read, they are liberated, they are set free. I wanted their imagination to run amok, and I love creative chaos and confusion. And I think there should be enough of that in children's books. So that's the idea. You know, I wanted to ask all of you before I end, do you know what this is? It's a ball, yes. So if you were at Horrid High, you would never have seen a ball in your life because the poor, unfortunate kids at Horrid High get to walk on their knees, but they don't get to play ball games. So I'm assuming everyone here knows how to catch the ball. So if I throw it out and you catch it, you get a copy of the book. So you want to try? I'm not very good at throwing. Is there somebody who has a better throwing arm? Yes. I warned you. Okay. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Anybody else has any more questions, or this horrid session is over for today? And I'm glad there's been no evacuation at the end. Yes? Yes, there are many writers' workshops in India. If you actually go to my website, www.horridhigh.com, there is a place where you can email me. Please do so with any queries you have. I love to meet other people who want to write. So send me a query and I'll be happy to help you out. Thanks so much.
notes on.
Hello? Yeah, one last thing. At the author signing area, we have these little forms that were kind of developed for grown-ups and for kids, actually, asking you what your most horrid memory is, if at all, or what's the most horrid prank you played at school. And if you can contribute and write down something, I'd love to put it up on my page. So it will be at the author signing area. If anybody feels brave enough to delve into your own horrid memories, feel free to share. Thanks.